Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At the Monroe County Board of Health meeting on May 5th, Assistant Vice President of Indiana University, Kirk White, gave a report on IU's commencement plans this weekend.
I think everybody knows that we're going to be able to celebrate commencement this weekend. Graduate school commencement is tomorrow afternoon. It will be indoors at Assembly Hall, and we've double checked to make sure, we're still in that mask optional category due to the infection rates, but we will have masks available at the entrances to Assembly Hall for the ceremonies. We want people to feel comfortable wearing them and have them. They're available if they forgot them or thought maybe not to worry about it, but then changed their mind and do want to wear a mask. So we'll do that. And then on Saturday, hopefully, if the weather cooperates, the commencement ceremonies will be held on Saturday morning outside at Memorial Stadium. And so there'll be much less chance of transmission in the outdoor venue. And hopefully weather will cooperate so we don't have to move it indoors.
White also updated the board on an increase in influenza A and COVID-19 numbers on campus.
We have seen this past week a high level of flu A on the campus. In fact, this past week, the flu A numbers at our health center were higher for one period at least than the COVID numbers were. So flu A is certainly there, and the health center was very busy with appointments. Now, this week we're seeing an uptick in cases of COVID, some uptick a bit in positive. So it's evened out a bit more. We're still keeping a close eye on things, and testing is still available on the campus. We're not testing as much as we used to because of the numbers that have gone down and the high vaccination rate, but we're continuing to offer testing, and at least through May, we'll continue to process those in our own lab on campus.
Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Caudill said there was an increase in COVID-19 detected in the wastewater testing process. Caudill said that the board will continue to monitor the increased presence of COVID-19 in wastewater samples.
I've talked with Vic Kelson from CBU as well, Kirk, that this is a good, hopefully an indicator. Right now, it's kind of that monitoring to see what we expect we might see if that holds true. So if we see these increases, and then if we continue to see an increase in cases that follows. So I agree that with less testing, that these water samples may very well be a very important tool that we have if we can do more testing.
Despite the increase in wastewater samples, Caudill said the hospital numbers are still low. The board agreed to continue the COVID-19 discussion during its next meeting on June 9th. The Bloomington City Council heard a report from the Commission on the status of women at their May 4th meeting. The Commission presented a capstone project report on gender equity in Bloomington. Elizabeth Gribbins introduced the study.
When we came with the commission at the beginning of the semester, they told us how they're advocating for women's needs and concerns within Bloomington, and they want to promote solutions within the community. So they defined the areas of gender equity in workplace issues, housing security, safety, childcare, and healthcare. And when we looked at these different issues, we made sure to take an intersectional feminist approach to them. Women have various backgrounds, and so it's really important to consider the implications of race, class, disability, sexual orientation, and identity in this kind of work. They expressed a need to us for data because some of the surveys that have been previously done have minimal data, and this data is unrepresentative of the various women within Bloomington and Monroe County. So for us, it was really important to give strategies to address this lack of data and representation. And of course, it was necessary to use this intersectional approach to doing our work. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the work we've done. There was a report on gender equity, which Adam and I will share. And then there was also a team that worked on a potential survey to fill in the gaps of the data that was missing. And lastly, there was a grants team who assessed various grant possibilities for doing this survey and for other programming and policy recommendations that we have for you.
Adam Schifris gave some policy recommendations and key data points on the report, focusing on employment and pay.
As many of you know, there's a significant pay discrepancy between men and women, and there's also discrepancy in poverty levels with over 13% of Hoosier women that are working age living in poverty, and nearly 40% of Hoosier single mothers living in poverty. I think if you look at some of the most common jobs in Indiana and compare the wages, it really drives the point home. So for example, an average cashier who's a woman is making about $23,600 and a man's making about $27,600, so 17% more. So a significant gap.
Gribbins shared what the council and commission can do to address wage inequity.
So we understand there's a challenge to the minimum wage being set at the state level. And we know that the Bloomington raise is restricted to city employees. So we would just recommend that the commission advocate for equitable employment policies and practices through various initiatives such as a business awards program or official statements from the mayor or city council and recommendations to other businesses to kind of keep that wage a little bit more equitable.
Later in the meeting, the council held its final vote on modifying the Monroe County local income tax rate. Council member Dave Rollo expressed concern about the timing of the increase in local income tax.
Well, as we've been saying, the nature of this tax, as restricted, I suppose, actually restricted by state statute, is that it's a regressive tax, it's a flat tax. So the burden is disproportionately borne on low to moderate income residents. It comes at a time of economic pressures for these residents. They're acute and increasing. We don't know exactly what these pressures will manifest. We don't know what inflation will look like even 6 months from now. Inflation is at the highest right now as it's been in 40 years. So it seems incumbent on us as the fiduciary body of the city to assist the administration in tightening our belt. And I appreciate the progress that's been made. It hasn't been easy, and I know it's taken a lot of work by my colleagues, and I appreciate that, and the administration. So now we are talking about a reduction from 8.855 to 0.69, meaning that by my simple calculation, a couple or an individual with a state-adjusted gross income has their impact reduced from $430 a year to $345. So that's real progress, and so I acknowledge that. But I think we can do more.
The council voted unanimously to increase the local income tax by 0.69%. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on May 4th, the board heard from Sands and Sands LLC regarding a use variance for a tourist home on their Lake Lemon property. Planner and GIS specialist Ann Crecelius explained that the site has been running as a tourist home without proper permits. She said that the county has had an ongoing court case since September 24th, 2021 to enforce the zoning ordinance.
This is a use variance, so we are not necessarily looking, this is not a request from any of these specific conditions, but they are to be taken into consideration for approving the entire use or not. So a tourist home or cabin must meet or exceed the minimum lot size and also the infrastructure facilities that would be required by the zoning district. So the site is currently pre-existing non-conforming under Chapter 803. Approval of this use variance would trigger compliance with the minimum lot size and the side yard setback requirements. The minimum lot size for this zoning district is 1 acre, and it appears that the existing structure is encroaching into the side yard setback of 5 feet. There is no information regarding the existing septic system.
Crecelius said that they have received both letters of support and remonstrance from community members about the use of the property, and that the staff recommends the board deny the use variance.
The staff recommendation for variance 22-7 is to deny the use variance for tourist home or cabin to Chapter 802 of the Monroe County zoning ordinance, specifically the lack of findings provided by the applicant to meet the criteria for a use variance. And I do have the criteria for a use variance on the next slide if we'd like to review that.
Board member Dee Owens asked the staff why there is a limit on the number of rooms that the zoning ordinance allows. Director of Planning Jackie Nestor-Jellin explained that since the site contains an existing residential structure, it would be considered mixed use to also have a tourist home, and that the number of guests is limited in rural areas due to septic system limitations.
The property is currently being used as a non-permitted use, but there is a residence on the structure. It's able to be used as such, but the tourist home would be a use that they're asking for. So they already have a use on the property, so they would not be able to meet one or more of these conditions. But the tourist home does have conditions that include a limit to the number of guest rooms. I think that was because most tourist homes are in the rural areas, and so they're subject to septic capacity. And so I think there's limitations on number of bedrooms and then guests per bedroom.
Petitioners Tom and Robert Sands spoke on behalf of their request to have a tourist home on their property.
So what we're trying to do out at the porthole, Brother Rob and I purchased it back in 2011. We came in and actually I submitted some pictures. I don't know if you can throw those up there, and some of the old stuff. So we came in and did a lot of cleanup. We acquired a spot for a dock and a pier out at the lake as well. The whole idea was just to clean it up. I know there's 3 lots out there. 2 of them are grandfathered in under that variance. We're asking for the variance on that particular parcel that you mentioned. We've used this little cabin. When we started out, there was a trailer there. The intent is, we were going to use the parcel as personal use, which we have. We have a large family. Families used it. And back in 2019 or 18, or 13, sorry, we built the cabin just so we'd have a place to go. Obviously, I have a place out here since '89 as well. We came in, we cleaned it up, we've added to the lake presence out there. We're asking for the variance on this particular one as a vacation rental, just so we can keep the place alive. This porthole's been there since 1957. So we're 65 plus years old. So it's kind of a historical landmark. I don't know if anybody's been out there, but I would tell you, take a ride. It's very nice. We're doing our portion. He farms, I'm in the roofing business. So we took it upon ourselves to clean it up just so it wouldn't go away. So that's what we're petitioning for.
Tom Sands said that they maintain their septic tank and that they are willing to limit the number of guests from 6 to 4 if need be. A neighboring resident, Sarah Gale Tala, spoke in support of the variance. She explained that she has been in the same position as the Sands and that she believes the septic tanks they have are more than sufficient to handle the amount of use they receive.
Now, there is another guest house directly across from this cabin that we got a variant. I helped to get a variance for because they had just opened it. So there's their guest house, there's the Sands, there's the sailing club, there's neighbors that have a picnic area, and then I'm a couple doors down. So we've already got 2 guest houses. They're between 2 of our guest houses. My guest house is a lot more expensive. Libby's guest houses is less. This is the least expensive one. The people that stay here are people that can't afford my guest house. I can't see any reason why this couldn't be a variance. I walk across that septic system every single day. 3 times a day I walk because I walk back and forth. I have installed over 7 septic systems on my properties. I've toured septic plants. I would have had another career. I would have worked for the health department. And I assure you, in my feelings, is that septic tank is overkill. I watched it go in. It's huge. There's never a problem. I don't quite understand this thing about the septic tank in tourist homes, because if you don't give them the variance, they could rent to a family of 8 there and they'd be using the septic a lot more. Our tourist homes use the septic tanks a lot less than when we have full-time people. I used to have a horde of graduate students in my guest house before it was a guest house, and they ran up the septic tank. We all have to be really careful with our septic tanks because no one's going to want to stay in a tourist home if the septic tank smells.
The board members voted unanimously to approve the use variance. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day. Believing in me.
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
to finish school,
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on May 4th, County Assessor Judy Sharp addressed the public's concern about increasing property value assessments.
Everybody's went up. I crunched some numbers. We crunched some numbers Monday, and actually it's something like 80% of the parcels in Monroe County did go up. They went up all over the world, all over the place. It could just been a few percent, it could be hundreds of percents. It just depended on where you were. It is the market. This isn't something that we are doing, in-house. Monroe County isn't sitting around thinking about raising assessments. It is the market. Each and every one of us knows what's happening in our streets. You can see there's bidding wars. There's very little inventory out there. And when something goes on the market, what I'm hearing right now from realtors, people are bringing cash offers to the table. And so there was a good article. One of the quotes was, if you think you have $250,000 to spend on a house, you better have $275,000 in cash. And that's scary. It's not going down. Next year, we're already working in next year, and next year is even up more. So one thing I want to tell the public out there, and you all understand this, we did put on about 1.9 billion with a B, new assessed valuation, highest we've ever done. That's the market. The paper sort of got it wrong when they said the hospital is 900 million. It will be. We only put 90 million on the hospital this year. That's all written off. So out of that 1.9 billion is only about 100 million. That's the hospital. It will be close to 900 million when it's all finished, but we just write that off. So we never even think about that. So that was just new value. It's all of this, new construction. Every place you look downtown, there's great big, huge cranes. Where I live out south of town, sitting at the house yesterday, and I heard this huge noise, and I looked out, and it was this humongous crane coming up from the road down below me. Now, I live in the county. I can't get to this house. It's under construction. It's got walls around, great big, but it's a McMansion. And they're being built all over. And when you have to bring in a crane like you see downtown, there goes my values even more next year. This is happening to all of us. The good news is, hopefully, tax rates will go down a little bit next year.
Sharp explained that conducting property value assessments is the law. Commissioner Julie Thomas commented.
Appreciate the explanation. And it's important to remember that housing values that are higher usually means a lower tax rate. If you go to a county west of us and the assessed value is much lower on average properties, you're going to find a much higher tax rate. So yeah, it's if everybody's or most people's values have gone up, wait for the tax bill before you panic, for sure.
Treasurer Jessica McClellan reminded the public of the approaching tax deadline and gave suggestions on how and when to pay them.
I'm here to remind everybody to pay and how they can pay. They can pay online, by phone. We have a drop box, and the drop box is great. It's right outside the north door. So if you want to come in person and you have your check and your coupon, you can put it in an envelope and put it in the drop box, and we will mail a receipt. Or you can come in person, and you can mail it through the mail. Let me go back to mailing it through the mail. We go by postmark. So if you put it in the mail and it's postmarked by May 10th, it'll be on time. And then talking about coming in person is definitely an option. We've been open since June of last year. And just want people to be aware that parking is not very easy downtown this time of year, that IU graduation is this weekend. So Friday, parking is going to be a complete zoo. Maybe Monday and Tuesday, it'll actually clear out a little bit, and you might actually have better luck on those days. But we hate to see people stressing out over parking and trying to get their taxes paid at the same time. So remember, online, by phone, by mail, Dropbox, and all that information is on your bill, and the due date is Tuesday next week, May 10th.
Commissioner Penny Githens commented on the price of sidewalk repairs after payroll advisor Jordan Miller read off the claims docket.
Well, I had one comment, and that when I was going through the claims, I noticed that there was one for maintenance and repair of sidewalks. And I just want to let the public know that for less than the length of a football field to repair and replace a section of sidewalk, it costs basically $14,000. So that's why we don't just jump up and down and quickly put in sidewalks throughout the county.
GIS coordinator Jared Eichmiller presented the request to purchase more licenses for geographic information system software for county staff in the amount of $7,350.
Monroe County uses a software through Esri. It's kind of a widespread software that offers ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro to help our departments manage spatial data. And so what our goal with this purchase is to buy an additional license to offer some more advanced editing of spatial data, and then to also increase the number of departments that have the ability to do more basic editing or to be able to host some of the data online from 6 departments to 9.
The commissioners approved the request unanimously. On May 2nd, at the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development, John Zodi, shared that HAND will host a tenant resource fair on Saturday, May 21st.
HAND is going to be hosting a tenant resource fair on Saturday, May 21st. This is as it's named, a resource opportunity for tenants in Bloomington to come and get information about different services available to them. We'll have some tables and some presentations in the council chamber to just provide information as we are now able to do this in person again, and hope for a nice crowd there. It'll be a Saturday with the farmers markets going on out front, so hopefully we'll have a good crowd there.
Zodi also reminded the public that there are requirements for maintaining lawns to a maximum height of 8 inches or less.
As a reminder, since we're in a public meeting, just want to remind the residents of Bloomington that grass is growing, and we have codes in place that require grass to be 8 inches or under if you are mowing and weeds and all that stuff. So we're in that time for our staff to be out looking for overgrowth. So just want to remind everybody to keep an eye on the yard.
Director of Economic and Sustainable Development, Alex Crowley, presented an agreement with Buskirk Chumley Theater Management Incorporated. He explained that they have worked with them for many years, and so they would like to approve a 3-year contract.
As you know, for many years now, we have had BCT Management as a managing entity for the Buskirk Chumley Theater, BCT. Year after year, we kind of renew the agreement, minor tweaks here and there. This is another one of those renewals, except that there are a couple of changes that are material in this case that we wanted to highlight, and I may overlook some, but the two in particular that I'm thinking of are, in the past we've done 1 year at a time, and they've done a great job. We're very pleased with the work. They're doing a really bang-up job over there. So we thought rather than just go through this every year, which is painful for everybody involved, we would do a 3-year agreement. So this time it's a 3-year agreement through December 2024.
The board approved the contract unanimously. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.